podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome along to this edition of Mutchy and Denno. I've got Andy Mutch and Robbie Dennison, two Wolves Hall of Fame legends, with me tonight. How are you both, boys?
Oh, very good, Johnny. Cheers, mate.
That's good to hear. We're going to talk about cups in this episode. Obviously, buoyed by the 6-1 FA Cup win for Wolves at the weekend. Mutchy, I've had cups on the table all day today. I was in Peckham in southeast London watching my elder lad in the English Schools Cup 6th round today. Did you ever play schools football in the cups?
I did, yeah. It was I suppose that was the highest thing you could do in them days. I was at a school called Christ the King, a Catholic school, which was in Birkdale. I represented North Sefton, which went right up to the edge of Bootle. So I was the only lad from our area that actually played in the team, because they were all from like St Wilfrid's and Litherland, which is obviously which people won't know is Liverpool itself, but it's North Liverpool, So we loved it. We used to play Liverpool boys, Manchester boys, D-side. We had a very good side. Kirby Boys was an individual where Cookie was from, and he'll probably played for Kirby Boys. Tommy Caton, sadly, who's not with us anymore, he was a year older than me, but I fortunately represented North Sefton a year younger, so I played against him for North Sefton against Kirby, although I was a year younger. So it was all good,
It's great. I mean, I was looking on Envious today that the lads all play, and they're through to the 7th round now. I think this cup is just an endless cup competition that'll go on and on and on. There's that many schools. But Robbie, what about you? Did you play any schoolboy cup football as a kid?
Not so much schoolboy, Johnny. I went to a grammar school, so it was mainly hockey and rugby. My football was played away from school. Really, we had a team, but it wasn't very good, because they're mainly all rugby lads. But I got me into a lot of trouble, actually, because I used to have to play sometimes on the Saturday mornings in the rugby, and then I'd phone them up, or not even phone them up, send them a note in on Saturday morning to say I was playing football instead, So I wouldn't. So it was just one of those things. But no, the school-wise, not really.
Robbie, could anyone get in a grammar school or what?
No, you had to pass a test, Mutchy, which I think I was the only one. I was the only one to pass it. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
That's me worry, if you passed the test and went to grammar school, I think, oh my
it's been downhill since then. It's downhill, mate.
Okay.
Well, we are recording this as the FA Cup draw is being made for the 4th round of the Cup, so we're getting right into the spirit of Cup competitions today. What did you make of the 6-1 win, Robbie, when that Wolves had at the weekend?
Well, I think Mutchy summed it up the last time I spoke, Johnny. It was a case of putting out your strongest team, keep going with the performances recently have been reasonably good. We've got a couple of results in the league. Keep going with that sort of atmosphere, and hopefully go out and put on a good performance against the lower league side, which you would expect them to beat. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna beat sides like that. To do it as comfortably as they did maybe surprised me a little bit. They scored 6. Strand Larson gets a bit of confidence with his hat-trick as well. So there just seems to be a bit of, better vibe around the place.
Yeah, as Robbie said there, Mutchy, you did say we should go with a very strong side in this cup competition. Were you pleased to see that, although there were a couple of changes here and there, it was a fairly strong team, and Wolves are taking this competition seriously?
Oh, absolutely. Confidence is the name of the game, and as I said, you alluded to, I said last week, he must, if he can, injury-wise, play his stronger side as possible, try and keep the momentum going, because you look at it, Macclesfield FC beat Crystal Palace, right, who are the FA Cup holders, so no games are given. But obviously they've gone out, got on the front foot and performed 6-1. Larson's got a hat-trick after I've given him a bit of stick. Mind you, the ball he put through for Mane at the Everton game was superb ball. So, that might, as Robbie said, give him a bit of confidence and give the whole squad confidence to actually start moving forward and getting a bit of belief. But a 6-1 victory, Shrewsbury aren't the best side in the world, of course, right? But you've still got to go and perform. And that's what the lads did. And I think all the fans and everyone around the ground will be pleased about that. They'll have gone home happy and be looking forward to the next game.
Shrewsbury was one of those ties that when it came out of the hat, it could only be a problem, really. They're not going to get much kudos for getting through, but they are going to get pelters if they get knocked out. So you're quite right when you say that, Mutchy. How seriously should Rob Edwards plough his resources into this competition now going forward?
100%, because all that will do will bring the feel-good factor back to the supporters. It will make the players feel worthy of what they're doing because they've had defeat after defeat this season. Now they've turned the corner. They're now organised. You have to say Rob's doing a tremendous job. Absolutely nutcase though, he took the job in my eyes, joking apart. But what a job he's done so far in organising the team. As you said, he brought Silver in to give him a bit of knowledge as well, or help like the rest of his staff. He's doing a marvellous job. And if you keep momentum in the cup, it gives you every opportunity to be more and more confident about what you're doing, and most importantly, get the feel-good factor around the stadium. You know, imagine if Wolves went to the final, it'd be tremendous. But you know, there's a lot to do, obviously. But it would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there is a lot to do, obviously, but here's a school of thought. Bearing in mind, I know they won't admit this, but bearing in mind, you can say the Premier League's gone, and that's not where priorities lie. Priorities lie simply in getting a respectable amount of points and being competitive on the pitch. So, in that sense, does the FA Cup give them this opportunity to actually divert the resources towards that and maybe use the league games? Obviously, you want to get points in the league. I'm not being naive here and suggesting that they mess around in the league, but that they really can focus their attentions to the FA Cup and just see where it takes them, for want of a better word.
Well, that's right, but they will focus on the FA Cup anyway now because that gives them a relief from the Premier League situation. You know, because I mean they've really improved, as we all know. But when you've consistently from August to the start of December lost games, you need to regain your confidence and belief and all that. And the real priority for Rob Edwards is to do as best as we can in the FA Cup, of course, right? And that's a sort of a side issue. What he really has to focus on is getting the identity back into the team, getting the identity back into the players, what they're all about, what the responsibilities are for themselves as footballers, for the club, for the supporters, all that type of stuff, which I think everybody has to agree that everybody was downhearted with everything that was going on. You know, there was a change at the top, Jeff Shee, sorry. So whether that is hand in hand with trying to placate the situation, because lots of supporters, probably yourself included, Johnny, said they maybe didn't do enough in the summer and they were reactive instead of proactive, I suppose, in the transfer market. So it's getting the identity of the club back in the team and what's expected of them and how they want to play and what systems they play. And as you say, the FA Cup will give them a little bit of light relief. But hey, every game is a big game in that situation. It depends who you draw, where you go, and you win another round and the next round, and all of a sudden opportunity could knock, you know, and that'd be tremendous for everybody.
We should point out at this stage that you have actually seen Wolves in the league since we last spoke on the podcast. You went to Everton's new stadium. A couple of things. I mean, first of all, tell us what Everton's new stadium was like, and tell us a little bit about that identity that you saw at Wolves, or if there was anything you could see that they were trying.
The ground itself, absolutely amazing. From the outside looking in, because I've drove past the ground quite a few times, it looks absolutely tremendous right on the dockside. But when I went into the ground, internally, it's high spec. There's a lot of money being spent on it. And when you see modern grounds from the Riverside or the stadium alike back in the day, which are new grounds, I mean, they're 30 years old, them grounds now. And I looked at Everton's ground and went, wow, that is a big statement of what they've done and the investment they put into it. So I enjoyed going to the ground and visiting. It was nice. I was in a corporate with a pal who kindly asked me to go. And a few Wolves fans came over and said hello to me and said they were in the away end and they were laughing because they'd been invited somewhere along the line. So that was nice. But I sat right behind the Wolves dugout. Didn't realise there was. Dave told me, my pal said, listen, you love the seats. When we got down, there's the 4 rows for all the bench and the staff. And I was sitting right behind him and I was laughing to myself right by the tunnel. I don't know any of the Wolves lads. I've never met them and they don't know me. So I just sat there and watched it. But I told Robbie the next day, I said, hey, Robbie, you won't believe it. I said, I was right behind the Wolves dugout. And Robbie said, Christ, he said, if I'd known that, I'd have put it on with 15 minutes to go. On the night, they were very, very competitive, showed a lot of organisation and physicality because Everton actually are quite a physical team. And I think 20 minutes into the game, for me, Everton started to take the game over. in one sense. They started to dictate the game, I should say, sorry. But Wolves, I think they realised that. And I think obviously Rob Evans must have sort of said whatever he did at half time. They came out second half and they were so competitive. I tell you what was brilliant though, Johnny, right? The stadium was superb and it was packed. So opposite where I was in the left-hand corner was where the Wolves fans were. Just after Christmas, they spent all the money. It was packed to the rafters. Bottom of the league, 6 points to the name, right? And as many tickets that they could have, they took, and they sang their hearts out the whole game. And what a support they were for the players. And I was mightily impressed. And at the end of the game, when everyone disappeared, all the Everton fans and the players and that, the lads went over and clapped the fans. And it was great to see. And I actually just stood there and watched it because I really enjoyed it. That I was looking at all the Wolves fans thinking, oh, what a turnout that is, just after Christmas,
That's brilliant, Mutchy. It's so good when you see a packed away end like that making a lot of noise as well. I can't wait to visit that new stadium. I've not been there myself. I was actually working at the Newcastle Leeds game that same night, which was an absolute classic, just a brilliant game. But I was envious of all the Wolves fans who managed to get a ticket for that one because, as you say, I'd been past the stadium quite a lot on my trips back up to Liverpool, and I'd been in it when it was a sort of building site when one of the players showed me around for a feature we did at Sky, but I've not seen the finished article yet on the inside, and it just looks absolutely brilliant. It looks like one of those places you just love to play football. So the cup draw is in now, and we have got Grimsby Town away from home in the fourth round. Robbie, what do you make of that one? Grimsby in the fourth round?
I'm happy with that, Johnny. I think if you'd have got them at home, it'd been even better. But no, it used to be in the days whenever you got draws like that, lower league sides and stuff, you'd have gone to places and the pitches wouldn't have been great. So it would have been maybe more of a struggle. But you find now when you go to these places, the pitches are all half decent. Yes, the crowds, you're up against crowds and stuff like that, but Premier League players should be able to handle that okay. But so you'll have a decent surface, and if the attitude's right on the day, I think it's a decent draw for Wolves to help them progress into fifth round.
The last time I went to Grimsby to watch Wolves, it was the opening day of the 96-97 season, and Bully got a hat trick. Were you still at the club then, Robbie?
I would have been, yeah.
Yeah,
Grimsby,
you would,
sure, Johnny, 96-97.
96-97, yeah. But I think Martin McGee
so they were in the championship at the time then.
Yeah,
Grimsby were they?
They were in the championship. I think Martin McGee was three at the back by then, and I think he probably had Froggatt as his left wing back, and he might have had Jamie Smith as someone as his right wing back, so he might not have been involved.
Robbie, that's why.
Are you trying to say Stevie Froggatt is a better left wing back than me, Johnny? Is that what you're trying to imply? If I'd had his pace, it'd have been all right, wouldn't it? No, Froggy was fantastic, wasn't he? Froggy was a fantastic player, especially in the wing back scenario.
As soon as you heard Mark McGee was the gaffer, you obviously knew you weren't playing anyway.
Well, I don't even think I was on the coach that day. Much he never mind playing.
He wouldn't have been the first great player at Wolves to have been frozen out by Martin McGee. You're in good company there. Some of his team selections down the years, I don't know. And especially as we're talking of cups, you would probably left the club by now, but I think he once left on the bench for an FA Cup semi-final against Arsenal. Mark McGee once left Robbie Keane, Steve Bull and Dougie Freedman on the bench.
That was the season after I'd left, Johnny. And I went to watch him, actually. It was Villa Park, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Played Arsenal, and I think Steve Claridge came in out of nowhere, didn't he? All of a sudden
Steve
he appeared,
Claridge,
and he ended up playing, and it was a real strange selection, especially with the ability that he had on the bench, as you say. And it didn't really look like scoring, and for him not to make many changes and all, and to leave it as it was very, very strange on the day, I must admit.
Before we move on to more FA Cup memories, you two do both have the inside track on Grimsby Town away in the FA Cup, because I've consulted the record books, which I have to hand here. And in 1989, we lost 1-0 at Grimsby in the first round of the FA Cup. Any memories of that whatsoever? You both played in it. Or have you wiped that from the memory bank?
Do you know what? No, I didn't remember that at all, Johnny.
No idea.
Obviously, we played against them in the league a few times up there, and was I think a pretty drab affairs as well. So no, must have been concentrating on the league that time. What's he, were they?
It was grim, Robbie, wasn't it?
It was Grimsby, mate. Yeah, it was.
It was the 88. So it wasn't 89. It was the 88-89 season. So it was that.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
It was the year we won the third division. So we were flying in everything apart from the FA Cup when we got knocked out in the first round.
But does it mean, Johnny, you concentrate in the league then, don't you?
Yeah.
That's probably what we're doing. We've made a decision before the game, probably.
The less said about it, the better. The less said about it, the
Yeah.
better. The 80s were pretty grim for the FA Cup and Wolves, from memory. I always seem to remember us getting knocked out in the first round. But we did have that one great cup run under Graham Taylor in 94, 95. Robbie, you were a part of that, weren't you, when they got to the quarterfinals? There's some good
Yeah.
games.
Crystal Palace. We
That's
ended up
right.
playing Crystal Palace. We drew 1-1 with them down in Selhurst Park, and then they came and they beat us comfortably in the end. But yeah, I think we beat Leicester along the way. Leicester were a Premiership side.
That's right.
We also beat Ipswich. Were Ipswich a Premiership side as well at that time? We
I
went to
think
Ipswich and won the
I think
game.
Ipswich was the year before.
Oh, was
The
it? Yeah.
the other big game of that year was Sheffield Wednesday. We drew at their place and then beat them in an amazing penalty
Oh, yeah,
shootout.
yeah, yeah. Which you're going to mention that I missed the penalty,
You
Johnny? Were you?
see,
Were you going to mention that?
I was not going to mention that.
No, you
I
were.
was going
I
to go
could tell.
further back to the third round when I'm sure we were 2-0 down in the third round away at Mansfield, and
Yeah.
you scored the winner and we won 3-2.
Yeah, actually scored the second one. I think Lee Mills
Second.
might have scored the winner. But I
Okay.
remember that game. Obviously we were talking earlier on about the pitches, and having to put up with. Obviously, you went away from home at the lower league sides. The pitches weren't the best really, and it was a leveler with regards to how you played the game then. But I remember John de Wolf,
That's
who had
right.
come from Holland at the time, and he's we're at Mansfield, and honestly, it was a ploughed field. And we're getting beat 2-0 at half time. I think John was caught for the second goal. I think he was trying to pass out from the back and all that. And as I say, it just wasn't the conditions to do that. Ended up getting caught in possession. They ended up going 2-0 up, and I think he got dragged off at half time. Graham Taylor was kicking everything in the dressing room. Everything was flying. I think he bust his new shoes. He kicks on, and I think he ended up breaking a toe as well whenever he kicked something. But we went out second half. We got one early on. I think Dave Kelly got the first one. I got the
I
second
can't
one,
remember. I remember
and
you and
then
Lee
Lee
Mills
Mills.
scoring. I remember you and Lee Mills
Yeah,
scoring because I was in the away end that day.
yeah, I can't remember whether Lee scored the first one or the third one. But I scored the second one, made it 2-2. But second half it was a great performance. Attitude has to be right, really. You know what I mean? You need to be bang on whenever you go to these places. And first half wasn't great. But second half we came through, and it was a fantastic cup tie.
Yeah, it was. From memory, it was great. I love the FA Cup that year because, as you said, there was the epic penalty shootout thing with Sheffield Wednesday. It was a great performance against Leicester in the fifth round. It would have been, and then in the quarterfinals, getting Crystal Palace, who I think down at their place we did very well, but back at Molineux, they just seemed to be running their own goal of the season competition that night, from memory.
Absolutely. I think two of them hit the stanchions, the wee corner stanchions bit.
Yeah.
And I think they stuck up there. I think Chris Armstrong scored one, Darren Pitcher might have scored one as well. But they beat us 4-1 that night. And in all fairness, it was never a 4-1. But you look at the goals that they scored, thoroughly deserved to go through. And I think they ended up playing Man U in the semi then, which would have been fantastic for us and the club itself. But it just wasn't to be. But yeah, the FA Cup, with games like the Sheffield Wednesday one, the Mansfield one. I think that's what it's all about. Creating the atmosphere and creating the enjoyment and getting at times half decent runs in it.
Mutchy, you had good experiences of the Cup, not the FA Cup, but the League Cup when you were with Stockport, when you went on that incredible run in the 90s as well. I think it was around the time, at a similar time to when Denno was involved, maybe a couple of years later. Were Stockport in League One? Were they in the third tier, or were they in the Championship by then? When you took them to the semi-finals?
We were in League One of
Yeah.
1-2 Championship and Premier
Yeah.
League. Ironically, Dave Jones was the manager, and he brought a few ex-Wolves lads, Chris Marsden, Tom Bennett, and I was quite pivotal in getting Paul Jones to sign for us. And he was the key, really, because we had a really good side. Cracking lad called Alan Armstrong played up front, Brett Angel. So we had a good balance. I didn't play very much then, but obviously I contributed. I come on a sub now and again, and I started a few times. But it was brilliant. We knocked quite a few Premier sides out: Southampton, West Ham, and we played Middlesbrough in the semi-final and got beat 3-2 over the two legs. But the mad thing was, at that time they had Jorginho, Ravanelli, a fella called Fester at the back. Brian Robson was the manager, and that's when Middlesbrough were really throwing money at it. And I think, if I remember rightly, they got beat against Chelsea in the final. But we got to the semi-final anyway, and it was unbelievable. When I first went to Stockport, they were Stockport that everyone knew, sort of always down the bottom, whatever they were. Don't get me wrong, nothing particularly to do with me. But Dave got a good side together. Well, an experienced side, that's basically what he did at Wolves when he got Wolves into the Premier League. He brought a lot of experience in. So he relied on the experience, and we went right through the leagues and ended up in the Championship, which was absolutely brilliant. Then Gary Megson took over. That was an absolutely amazing run, and the club did it right, like clubs do. When we went away, they took us to the great hotels and give us all the trimmings and stuff. It was an amazing run from what we were as a club to what we were up against, and we just kept beating them all the time. And I think actually after that, Dave Jones got the Southampton job because we beat Southampton away. By the time we got knocked out, I think his name was Rupert Lowe. I think he was the chairman.
That's right.
I can't remember his name. Yeah,
Rupert Lowe.
He then went in for Dave, and he took Paul Jones with him. I think he took Mazza as well.
That's right. Chris Marsden and Paul Jones followed him. You're right.
Yeah, and Sean Connolly was right back for that team, and he went to Wolves, played for a while, didn't he?
He did.
Wolves, yeah.
No, you're right. You're doing yourself a disservice as well, Mutchy. You scored 4 goals. I'm just looking it up now. You scored 4 goals in that League Cup run to the semi-finals, including the winner away at Southampton in the quarterfinals. So there you go.
There you go, yeah. Well, I didn't realise that. I knew I'd scored a few goals, but I can't remember really, because if I'm really honest, when I was at Stockport, I loved it. Loads of cracking lads, and I contributed quite a lot early, first season and a half, but near the end, you sort of, your legs are going a bit, or they've gone, if truth be known, and you're not enjoying it as much as you were, type stuff. So your memories aren't as sharp, if you know what I'm saying. But I've really had a great time when I was there, and met some great people. If you'd have said to me to score 4 goals, I wouldn't have believed that, but obviously I did, didn't I?
Yeah, good man. I mean, you've both probably experienced cup competitions on both sides of the coin, really. You've been playing at maybe Wolves when Wolves have been favourites to win certain tournaments like the Sherpa Van or whatever, and then you've played as the underdog when maybe as Denno did on that cup run under Graham Taylor, and you did with Stockport County. What do cup competitions mean to you as a whole, and especially as sort of growing up? It's different now, and I think. Almost that Macclesfield win against Crystal Palace, I think it will have passed a lot of people by, but back in the day, that would have just been incredible to think that the Holders being knocked out by this sort of Step 6 or 6th tier team. I mean, what are your memories of the Cup, and is it important still to you?
It's massive. Well, listen, I
just answered the phone.
We should say while Robbie's answering the phone, we'll get you to answer this.
No.
You might have spotted earlier on in the podcast there was a good 5 minutes of Mutchy rambling on. Yeah. That was when Denno's Wi-Fi went. We can just clean now.
He just went missing. He just went missing. But do you know what, Johnny? Right? Interestingly, I got to the semi-final of the League Cup with Swindon as well.
Okay.
And we lost to Bolton over the 2 legs, although I didn't play in the second leg. But we played Millwall in the quarter-final, scored 2 that day at home. We beat them. I think we beat them 3-1. I had quite a good run in that. But the FA Cup, I never in the team that really did anything, if I'm being honest. The only thing I remember about the FA Cup really was coming on the sub for Wolves against Cambridge just after Christmas at the 3rd round, I think it was. And I had a back operation, had been out about 6 months. And I could hardly even stretch my hamstrings. And Graham Turner says, "You're on the bench on Saturday." I says, "I'm not." He says, "You are." I went, "All right." So he put me on the bench. I couldn't even warm up. It was in modern day football. Trust me, I wouldn't have played for another 3 months at least. And he said, "No, we need to get you out there." And then I thought he wasn't going to bring me on, and he brought me on with about half an hour to go, I think, and I couldn't move. I don't even know how we got on that day, if I'm honest. I think this is a dementia podcast, isn't it? We can't remember anything.
but Johnny, I think you asked this as well. Whenever we were growing up, and Mutchy's probably the same, the FA Cup was a massive thing for us, really. As kids, we grew up, the FA Cup final at the end of the season, because you hardly saw any live games during the season. You saw clips, you saw highlights, and the FA Cup at the end of the season was a massive thing for us kids. You look forward to it. You watch your It's a Knockout and all in the morning time, building up to the games and stuff, and those were fantastic. And I think as a cup competition then, I think it was probably the best in the world, really, that at that point. Now, over a period of time, and yes, you look at the games and all you see, and probably first recollection of games was, I remember Arsenal beating, I think Leeds beating Arsenal. And then I think Arsenal might have beat Liverpool around early 70s and stuff like that. But those were
71.
games, 71, Mutchy. So
Yeah.
those were games that sort of stick out in your mind because you didn't watch many games. Those little things stick out in your mind. And then the main game that I remember seeing was I think Arsenal and United. Whenever Arsenal were winning 2-0 with 5 minutes to go, United scored a couple, equalised, and I think me and the brother were still dancing around the room whenever Arsenal scored the winner then, about 2 minutes later. So it was those are the memories that stick with you because you didn't see that many games and you didn't see that many live games. And it was always a massive thing at the end of the year. And for me, it's always been a great competition. I think over the years, it's changed a hell of a lot because of teams having more priorities, if you want to call it that, Johnny, with regards to what to prioritise with the Champions League and obviously the league. It has changed that way, but you just feel as if it's changing back a little bit, and hopefully it is because it deserves the respect that people should show it. They should put out the stronger teams as they possibly can, because there's a lot of teams in the league that can't actually win the league. Johnny, really, when you look at it, there's a couple of teams, maybe 2, 3 teams each season that can win the league. Those other teams aren't in the Champions League either. So you should really be putting your strongest sides out to try and win a cup competition like Crystal Palace did last season. And you're right what you say about the Macclesfield scenario. That's like something that happened maybe 15, 20 years ago and on a more regular basis as well. To the Macclesfield to knock out the cup holders. And then you have the Rooney's involved in it. There's a lot of emotion at the end of the game, wasn't there? And that shows that the competition cares, or sorry, people care about the competition. And for Wayne Rooney to see his brother win that game and stuff like that's what the cup competitions is all about. Little stories like that. And unfortunately, it's not the same as it was, but hopefully we're heading back to being sort of similar to what it used to be.
I think it's getting there, Robbie, isn't it? If truth be known, all your recollections when you're young, and we're all the same, weren't we? All over the British Isles. Can't wait for cup final day. I watched loads of cup games, followed, went semi-finals, all sorts of stuff. But the money side of things has made it more of a priority to rest players and other players play in, the first team scenario. But for me, it's actually the managers now, for me, who I've sort of started to change the attitude of people because they're starting to play stronger sides. And I think they're doing it because they're realising if they win a bit of silverware, right, whether it be the League Cup, whether it be the FA Cup, because they turn around and say, well, this Arteta's a brilliant manager for Arsenal, but what has he won? You understand what I'm saying? And he is a very good manager. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't saying that as if he isn't. He's built a great side at Arsenal, right? But actually crossing that line and winning is very tough. As you said, Robbie, in time, I believe it'll be the cup competition that it want it to be. But unfortunately, there's that much money involved in the game. There's chairman going, listen, I don't want him injured and don't play him and make sure, because we need to win the next 2 Premier League games to make sure we stay in the league or, get into Europe, because it's all the big money involved. So that's what's really got in the way. But I think, as you say, Robbie, it is most definitely coming back, and there's more and more interest in it. And to see Macclesfield FC reform 5 years ago, and they've got a group of lads who love the football. I think they're in the Northern Premier League, Conference North, I think they're in. But to actually beat Crystal Palace is unbelievable. Because no matter what you say, the worst Crystal Palace team you could put out should beat them no trouble. But they've actually made it a big day, look forward to it like you'd ever believe. And they put in a performance which I was unbelievably shocked when they went 1-0. I thought, well, it's going to turn in a minute. In it, next minute it's 2-0. I said, there's only 10 minutes to go. What a performance, eh? And it's the romance of the cup, isn't it?
But that in our time, Mutchy, growing up, you probably had 3, 4, 5 results like that over each season, and that's the way it used to be. And now they're few and far between. But hopefully, as you say, Mutchy, it's about silverware, really, isn't it? At the end of the day, and you're right. There's a lot of top clubs still in the league who haven't. Newcastle won the League Cup last year, and I think obviously Crystal Palace won the FA Cup. So it shows that you can, if you concentrate and you put out strong sides, you can actually win trophies as well. So a lot of the teams, I think, are heading down that route as well, Mutchy, now.
I was talking to a few Everton fans. They were very disappointed that they got knocked out against Sunderland. Where if you'd have said that to them 3 or 4 years ago, say, it's only the FA Cup in it. But now they want to win it. You know what I mean? It's the fans that want to win it. You know, if it keeps going the way it is, it will get back to what it was. And
I agree. And also, I mean, and I know quite a lot of Evertonians as well, like you do, Mutchy. A lot of them are pissed off with the fact that they never have good cup runs, because Everton are the classic big club who realistically can no longer win the league. And so the FA Cup represents silverware on one front and a passport into Europe on another front.
You look at Newcastle beating Liverpool. Sorry, Robbie. When Newcastle beat Liverpool in the League Cup, I think it was the last season, was it, or the season before? The difference that made for all the Newcastle fans who've been dying for a trophy for years and years and years. I can't remember what it was. In the 60s, when they last won anything or something. And they beat Liverpool at Wembley and actually played them off the park. The fans were absolutely head over heels about it, you know what I mean, made up. So that's exactly what that brings.
But whenever you look at it now, Everton, for instance, your season's virtually done now, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because they're going to finish. They're not going to get relegated, Everton. You're out of the FA Cup. So now basically you're trying to get mid-table as high as possible, mid-table. So your season really, yes, the fans will turn up and they want to see a team winning games of football. But once you're out of the FA Cup at this point, then your season's virtually done.
United last night,
which is disappointing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, listen, I just think that it's maybe turning a little bit and people having a different attitude towards it. But it's needed to have that change a little bit.
So bringing this forward, are we in agreement that Rob Edwards should go all in on the FA Cup this season? We've got Grimsby in the 4th round. Go all in and see where it takes us, and see if a dreadful season can be salvaged.
Absolutely. It's well, you're trying to salvage it, Johnny. You know what I mean. It is, but anyway, whether Wolves are sitting mid-table or where they are at the moment, you still want to get the cup run, keep it going for as long as possible, because it does breed confidence. You know what I mean? Because yes, the 1-6-1 on against Shrewsbury. Yes, you would expect the Premier League side to do really well against a side in the lower leagues. But the confidence that they showed in the game, you know, even Strand Larson, who's getting a hard time, he backheels that one in. I think it was his first goal, second goal, maybe. It's showing that he's playing with a bit of confidence, and the side are actually playing with a bit of confidence. But for me, now you've got Grimsby, you've got a decent chance to go through there, and all of a sudden you're in the fifth round, get a decent draw then, and all of a sudden you're in the quarterfinal. So yes, definitely go all in. Keep your season alive, keep the fans on board, and hopefully go as far as you can. And Wolves on their day, the way they're playing at the moment, could give people, you know, a decent game. No matter who they get, they still give them a decent game. So why not go? You have to go all out to try and go as far as possible, yeah.
And the 3rd round has already seen off the likes of Everton, Manchester United, Spurs, Bournemouth. There are Premier League sides who've been dropping out. Crystal Palace, obviously. So if that's what's happened at the 3rd round, Mutchy, if Wolves can get through the 4th round and then into the last 16, then who knows how many Premier League teams will be left by then?
Well, that's it. Opportunity knocks, doesn't it? If they put the strongest team out, Wolves, against Grimsby, then whoever they draw next, you couple of rounds before you know it, you're in the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and as I said, opportunity knocks. And what Rob Edwards is doing, as we said, is he's creating the identity of what the club need. But with that, he's winning games of football now. Although we only played Shrewsbury, who aren't really doing particularly well at the moment, you still got to go and beat them, because we were just talking about Macclesfield a few minutes ago, you know, playing the cup holders. So they've gone out the right manner, the right attitude. They've done it. Let's hope they do it against Grimsby. When the next one comes, the feel-good factors all around the place, as we've said, and it'll help the club move forward, and it'll give the fans something to smile about.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for that, lads. Don't forget, if you're enjoying the podcast, do like and subscribe and whatever else you're asked to do on whichever platform you're taking it on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you might be getting it. We've got great plans for the podcast over the coming weeks and months when we're hoping to put extra content on Patreon for you as well, so you can listen to hopefully about double the amount of podcasts that we're currently producing. But we'll have another one for you coming up very shortly. But for now, thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for listening.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.